TFLev is brought to you by Flow Charger, maker of reliable, high-quality charging stations for your electric vehicle.
So you just bought your very first electric vehicle. Congratulations! In this video, I'm going to give you the top 5 important things to know when it comes to charging up your EV at a public charger and ways to keep not only yourself, but everybody else happy. All right, so the number 5 tip you need to know about charging your EV is that not all chargers are equal. Brendan, if you want to kind of come this way, there are 2 main types of chargers you'll find out in the public, level 2 and level 3 chargers. Now, level 2 are what they call AC chargers, and they'll typically charge your car up in a few hours, depending on your battery. Level 3 chargers will typically charge your car up in between like 15 minutes and maybe 45 minutes, depending on the car. So they're much faster, but they're also harder to find. Now, level 2 chargers you'll find in a lot of places. For example, like at this Walgreens, this drugstore, you also find them in front of like libraries a lot of the time. They are all over. However, this brings me to my next tip. Look out for station reliability. I always like to keep a nice little buffer in the battery because, Brendan, check this out if you want to get close. This thing is just mangled. It's just destroyed. And we're seeing lots and lots and lots of chargers, not only level 2, but level 3 now, which are dealing with reliability issues. So keep a nice little buffer in the battery so that if you couldn't use this charger, for example, we could go down the road and use a different one. Now, these level 2 chargers are great if you're like going to a restaurant, at the library, and you have like 5 hours, 4 hours, or whatever you want to burn. But for a faster charging experience, we need to go up to a level 3 charger. Now, this right here is a DC fast charger or level 3 charging, and these are the stations that are going to fill up your car the quickest. But it's not that simple. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, which plug to use. When it comes to DC fast charging your EV, you'll actually find 2 different standards here in North America, and here they are both at this Electrify America. Now, the standard on the right, this blue connector, this is called a CHAdeMO connector, and it is fairly large, it's pretty chunky, it's pretty hefty, and this is a standard that is used in EVs like the Nissan Leaf. So, it's kind of a dying standard. There's not a lot of vehicles on the market that still use this standard, but it's important to realize there are 2 different types, and you'll see why in a second. Now, this is the new charging standard. This is called the CCS plug. Just about every new EV will have this plug. Most used EVs will have this plug, but here's why it's important to know this. A lot of stations like this one are going to have a CCS and a CHAdeMO port, but if you come over here, Brendan, typically in a installation like this, only one of the chargers is going to have a CCS and a CHAdeMO. The rest of them, Brendan, if you come over here, are just going to have CCS. And this kind of makes sense, right? Because the majority of new EVs sold use the CCS standard. But what's important to note and important to utilize when it comes to this knowledge is if you come to, you know, this Electrify America, for example, you don't want to take that CHAdeMO installed station, because what if a Nissan Leaf pulls up? Well, in this case, we have 4 empty stations. So it'd be pretty silly to go use that one when the rest of them are CCS, especially if it's a CCS car. Now, obviously, if you're running a Nissan Leaf, you have to use that standard. You can't use a CCS. So by all means, take up that stall. But if you're like, for example, in this EQB, or that guy over there just pulled up in a Polestar, it's probably a good idea to use one of these stalls that just has CCS, because that's the one your car uses. Number 3, know how much power your car can accept. So not all installations like this Electrify America will actually have the same power output at every stall. So take a look at this. Underneath these stations, you'll see this number, up to 150 kilowatts, and that is the maximum power that this stall can deliver. Now, that number will change station to station and even stall to stall. So some stations might have a 350 kilowatt number there. Some may just be 50, and it's important to know what your car is capable of. So for example, this Mercedes-Benz EQB is capable of up to about 100 kilowatts. So by plugging into the station, I can get near max charging rate. However, it's not quite that simple. You have to factor in amps and volts. We're not going to get into all that in this video, but 100 is smaller than 150. So for the vast majority of folks, I could get near max charging rate using this stall. However, Some of these stations are up to 350 kilowatts, right? So by plugging into that, I probably wouldn't get that much of an advantage when charging up this Mercedes because it's rated at just 100. However, someone driving a Hummer EV would, because that can charge up to 350 kilowatts. So let's say, for example, you're driving this Mercedes, you wouldn't want to take up a 350 kilowatt stall if there's a 150 that would deliver just as much energy, because someone could pull up in that Hummer and really benefit from plugging into that 350 station. So you gotta know the number that your car can charge at. Some cars, like my Mini, can only do 50. Some cars like this Mercedes can do 100 and 150. Some cars like the Hummer EV and like a Lucid will do well into the 200, 300 territory. So it's important to know that so you don't end up making someone mad. Number 2, how to find a charger. Now there's a few ways to do this. A lot of new cars, including this Mercedes-Benz EQB, if you want to show in here, Brendan, will actually have EV charging stations sorted, and you can simply navigate to them by sticking it into the navigation here, and they even pop up on the screen, which is very, very cool. But this is not always the best way to find a charger. It can be a little bit cumbersome depending on the vehicle, but there are certain apps which can really help. Now my favorite is an app called PlugShare, in no way sponsored, but PlugShare will actually show you where all the chargers are in your area, and also what the power output is, and in some cases the availability, so you know exactly who's charging at what station, how much power you can get out of each station. It's a great app. Now going off of that, another fantastic tip is to have the major apps of the charging station providers downloaded, installed, with your payment information ready to go. So for example, there's an Electrify America app, and not only do I find all the Electrify Americas on that app, but I can activate charging on that app. There's one for EVgo, there's one for ChargePoint, and I like having these pre-installed ready to go because a lot of stations don't have credit card readers to start charging. A lot of stations you do need the app, or you do need a special installed program on your phone to allow you to start charging. So I like to have those all ready to go. Sometimes there's monthly fees, sometimes they're free, but it's great just to have that peace of mind that knowing if I pull up, there's no credit card reader, I'll still be able to charge. And the number 1 tip I can give you about charging at a DC fast charger is don't charge over 80%. This is a recalibration of your brain compared to gasoline vehicles. But charging up an electric car is like filling up a stadium. When the stadium is empty, when the battery is empty, people flow in, they sit where they want, and the rate of people flowing in is extremely high. You're charging up your EV quickly. However, as that stadium gets more and more full, people have to start crawling over each other and finding seats, and it slows down immensely. And the same thing is true with EVs. Once you hit about 80%, the charging rate just dives off a cliff, and you're just gonna be wasting so much time. Now, of course, a gas car, it doesn't matter, because when the gas tank's empty, it fills up at the same rate as when the gas tank's full, but with an EV, it's different. Now, if you're charging at home, charge to wherever you want, right? Charge to 100%, for example, I would be okay with that. But with an EV, it just doesn't make much sense, especially considering the sheer number of EV chargers out and about right now. So for example, okay, now here's the pickle. You want to pan to your right? This is what I was talking about. That Polestar took the one space that had access to the Chatham port, and now this Leaf is going to have to do some kind of sketchy little maneuver to get in. Real world application of why it's important to find the right standard for charging your car. But anyways, don't charge your car above 80%. For most new EVs out there, you'll have enough range to at least get to the next charger down the road, or you can charge quickly, because the charging infrastructure is growing at an immense rate. Sure, there are instances where you do need a full charge to make it home or to make it to that rural destination. But for 99% of drivers and driving on the road, don't bother doing that. Just charge to 80% if you're on a road trip so you can get to the next charger and charge up quickly. This is a problem. Was it not a useful tip I gave you earlier? I think it really, really was. Anyways, now that that drama's going on, it's important to be courteous, right? A lot of EVs will charge faster from 0 to 80% than they will from 80 to 100. So you'll spend longer getting that last 20% of charge than you will the first 80%. Why sit around waiting? We might as well film this. See what's gonna happen. Now this guy's gonna have to do this weird sketchy maneuver, or he's just gonna leave. Oh no, he is gonna do a weird sketchy maneuver. This is why people need to watch this video. Top 5 reasons. All right, guys, thank you for watching. That worked out pretty good. As always, this has been Tommy. We'll see you on the next episode of TFLev.